Jack Gerard with a plan to tackle the rising price of gasoline and energy.
All right, but first, big news on Capitol Hill today with Congressman Paul Ryan unveiling the budget, the Republican budget for 2013.
Rich Edson is standing by with the very latest of what's in the plan. Where are the shockers in here, Rich?
In the plan is the beginning of a spending fight. House Republicans propose spending less money in 2013 than Democrats and Republicans agreed to last summer, $19 billion less. Republicans say that was only a cap. Democrats say this is a breach of faith. The budget replaces next year's $55 billion in defense cuts with spending caps elsewhere. It proposes overhauling the tax code by cutting deductions and lowering the top rate to 25% and then taxing multinational U.S. companies on only their domestic income. Republicans would also repeal the alternative minimum tax. Now, Republicans say their budget will add $3.3 trillion fewer dollars to the national debt over the next decade when you compare it with the president's plan. In a statement, the White House says this budget once again fails the test of balance, fairness, and shared responsibility. The themes, by the way, of the president's re-election campaign, guys.
And my favorite question, it's not a coincidence, my favorite question in these types of situations, is there any chance something like this would actually pass?
No. This is the Republican answer to the president's budget, which won't pass either. Democrats control the Senate and the White House, and they say this plan is a non-starter.
The Republicans are going to rehash last year's budget proposal, which ends Medicare. It ends the Medicare guarantee for seniors. It cuts, obviously, benefits to seniors who need health care.
The president keeps the size of government at historic highs now and well into the future. He never brings spending back down to where it historically has been. By 2015, we get spending down to 20% of the economy.
The Democrats have relentlessly attacked Republicans on their Medicare plan. Budget Committee Chairman Paul Ryan has some cover this year, though. He proposes an overhaul similar to a bipartisan framework he wrote with Democratic Senator Ron Wyden. It allows retirees to choose a private plan or traditional Medicare starting in 2023. However, Ryan would also curb future increases in government spending on Medicare. Dagan and Connell, back to you.
All right, good outline. Rich Edson there, live from D.C.
Rich, thank you so much. Oklahoma Congressman Tom Cole is a member of the House Budget Committee. Congressman, thank you for joining us this morning. So you hear it from the Democrats. This plan from Paul Ryan is not going anywhere. It's a non-starter. What do you say?
Well, first of all, it is going someplace. It's going to pass the Budget Committee. It's going to eventually pass the House of Representatives and will appropriate to the numbers in that budget. So it'll have a direct impact on spending. More importantly, though, we are in a presidential year, and this is the time for a great debate. We all know that we're spending too much, that we have a debt crisis looming on the horizon. Paul Ryan's been the one guy in this town, along with that committee, to actually lay out a solution and make some tough decisions. The president hasn't done that. The Senate, of course, hasn't been able to pass a budget in 3 years. So at least we've got somebody willing to lead. It's too bad that it's a 42-year-old congressman from Wisconsin instead of the president of the United States.
In terms of what you're doing with taxes in this proposal, you know, going from 6 brackets to 2 brackets, 10% rate, 25% rate, this is the beginning of real tax reform. But what about cutting the tax breaks that is inevitable and necessary if you're going to reform the tax code? What can you tell me about the tax breaks and that you are willing to get rid of?
Well, I think all of them are on the table, and what we've done is basically lay out where we want to go. We've gotten from Chairman Dave Camp of the Ways and Means Committee, a commitment that he'll have the hearings, have the debates, and that's the direction that we'll move in. We think that ought to be done in the light of day. But I think quite a few of the tax shelters now that individual industries have, and frankly that high-income people have, are going to be on the chopping block. Most of the deductions that individuals take are taken by individuals in the top 2 of those 4 or 6 tax brackets.
Congressman, mortgage interest deduction, would you cap how much mortgage debt
I think
you can
look. Tom Coburn's done some great work on this and is back to the black. And one of the things he has laid out there is something to consider is taking away the deduction from second and third homes, vacation homes quite often, and lowering the cap. So obviously most Americans would continue to get the benefit, but the very wealthy Americans might not. I think you've got to look at every single tax bracket that way. And in exchange, higher income people get a lower tax rate, which keeps them investing in profitable and productive ways for the entire economy.
What do you think happens with our tax code between now and the end of the year? Because you have a plan here that Congressman Ryan has put out to reform it, but you have the Bush tax cuts that do expire at the end of the year. Tell me what you think happens.
Tell me who wins the elections in November, and I can give you a better answer. I do think that we have all the Bush tax cuts expiring. That's $4 trillion. We have the sequester, which is another trillion. We have the payroll tax holiday. It's sort of like the Mayan calendar. Everything ends in 2012. So I expect a lot of big decisions to be made in November and December. But they'll depend, honestly, very directly on who the incoming president of the United States is and who controls the Senate.
Just one last thing. Senate Democrats have described, because, again, the discretionary spending in this plan is lower, $19 billion lower than what was agreed on in that Budget Act last year. And Senate Democrats have called that a breach of faith and alluding to the fact it risks another government shutdown. Congressman, how do you respond to that?
Well, first of all, it's political theatrics and hysterics on the part of the Democrats in the Senate. The government wasn't shut down during the last budget debate. The budget wasn't shut down. The debt ceiling, or the government and the debt ceiling crisis, won't be shut down now. But I tell you, for a group of people that haven't been able to produce a budget in 3 years, to be throwing rocks because we want to spend all of $19 billion less in a $3.5 trillion budget is just simply ridiculous. It shows that there's simply no spending cuts that they find acceptable. I think Chairman Ryan said it best. Look, that 1047 is a ceiling. We think we can do better than that. Given the size of our debt crisis, I think most Americans want us to do better than that.
Congressman, it was good to see you. Congressman Tom Cole from Oklahoma, be well. You're welcome back anytime, sir.
Thank you.
A completely different story right now, but it certainly gives us something to talk about. You have the ever-increasing